OTF Jam just took the stand in Lil Durk's federal trial, pointed the finger directly at Durk and told the jury that Durk was involved in the alleged plot targeting Quando Rondo. And this wasn't somebody talking on Instagram. This wasn't an anonymous source. Kacey Hester, better known as OTF Jam, actually got on the witness stand under oath and testified for the federal government. Jam admitted his own involvement in the 2022 shooting that killed Quando Rondo's cousin, Saviay'a Robinson. And when prosecutors asked Jam who he says was involved, courtroom reporters say Jam began identifying the defendants sitting inside that courtroom, and Lil Durk was the first person Jam pointed toward. So in street terms, people are going to call this exactly what it looks like. OTF Jam told on Lil Durk in federal court. Now, everything Jam is saying is testimony from a cooperating witness. Lil Durk has pleaded not guilty, and Jam's claims have not been proven by a verdict. But what makes this situation even crazier is the relationship Jam says he had with Durk before all of this. Because according to Jam, when he spent around 12 years in prison, Lil Durk was one of the people who did not forget about him. Jam testified that Durk stayed in contact with him while he was locked up. He said Durk put money on his books. And Jam even testified that Durk contributed $1,000 toward an attorney for him. Jam told the jury that when you're in prison, people have a tendency to forget about you. But according to him, Durk didn't. So this isn't some random person from outside of OTF making accusations. According to Jam's own testimony, this is somebody Durk allegedly supported while Jam was doing more than a decade behind bars. And now, years later, Jam is sitting feet away from Durk in federal court, helping prosecutors build their case against him. That is what makes this testimony feel like such a major reversal. Jam then started telling the jury what he says was going on inside Durk's circle after King Von was killed in Atlanta in November of 2020. According to Jam, Durk was frustrated by the disrespect and trolling that followed Von's death. Jam testified that people were clowning Durk and that the situation was getting to him. Then Jam described an alleged conversation at a studio in Atlanta. According to Jam's testimony, Durk allegedly made it known that if somebody caught Quando Rondo or Lil Tim, that person would be taken care of financially. And that part is extremely important, because prosecutors have accused Lil Durk of being behind a murder-for-hire plot targeting Quando Rondo in retaliation for King Von's death. Durk denies that accusation. But Jam is now telling this jury that he personally heard statements that prosecutors are likely to argue fit directly into their theory of the case. Then Jam's testimony moved to California. According to Jam, early on August 18, 2022, he received a call from a man known as Booney. Jam testified that Booney told him they needed him. During that conversation, Jam said Lil Durk was being referred to by the nickname Blood. But Jam claimed nobody initially told him exactly what they needed him for. He just knew something was happening. Jam and Asa Houston eventually flew to San Diego. And after they arrived, Jam says they ended up at a Hooters while waiting for other people. According to Jam, while he was there, he was on FaceTime with Booney. And Jam testified that this is when he finally learned why everybody had allegedly been brought to California. According to Jam, the plan was to kill Quando Rondo. But Jam's next claim is what makes this testimony particularly serious for Durk. Jam testified that while that conversation was happening, he could hear Lil Durk's voice coming through another phone. According to Jam, Durk said he was there. Think about what prosecutors are putting in front of the jury. They are not only showing travel records, messages, and other evidence. They now have somebody who admitted being part of the alleged operation, telling the jury that he personally heard Durk's voice while the alleged plan was being discussed. Again, that is Jam's testimony, but that is exactly the type of first-hand account prosecutors wanted from somebody who claims he was actually there. Jam also told the jury that Durk allegedly did not want the people traveling to Los Angeles contacting him directly. According to Jam, when he attempted to contact Durk, Durk would not answer. Jam later testified that while the group traveled from San Diego toward Los Angeles, Durk was on FaceTime with DeAndre Wilson. Jam said Wilson referred to members of the group as Navy SEALs. Then Jam described what he says happened as the group prepared. According to his testimony, members of the group stopped and purchased black hoodies and gloves. Jam also testified that Kayvon Grant, also known as OTF Vonnie, obtained 3 guns. Jam then claimed another OTF member had a connection to a dealer who was communicating with Quando Rondo. According to Jam, that connection allegedly helped the group figure out where Quando was located. Jam says the plan that first night was to catch Quando when he came outside. But according to him, there were too many police officers around. Jam described the location as being too hot. So according to his testimony, the group backed off. But one of the biggest moments came when prosecutors started asking Jam directly who he says was involved. Because Jam was not sitting on that witness stand pretending to be an innocent bystander. He acknowledged his own history. He admitted his own participation. He described himself as having been a shooter. And then prosecutors asked him to identify the people he says were involved in what happened. Courtroom reporters say Jam began pointing toward the defendants, and he pointed toward Lil Durk first. That visual alone is probably one of the biggest moments this trial has had so far. Lil Durk sitting inside a federal courtroom while somebody from his own circle, somebody who says Durk helped him while he was incarcerated, physically identifies him in front of a jury. But there is another side to this that Durk's defense is almost certainly going to attack. Jam has already pleaded guilty himself. Jam is cooperating with federal prosecutors. So the defense has a very obvious question for the jury. How much should you trust somebody who has admitted his own involvement and is now helping the government prosecute somebody else? That could become one of the biggest battles in this entire trial, because Jam's testimony sounds damaging, but a cooperating witness also comes with credibility questions. What has Jam told investigators before? Has his story ever changed? Are there inconsistencies? What does Jam expect to receive because he is cooperating? And can prosecutors back up what Jam is saying with independent evidence? Those questions matter because a jury does not have to believe everything a cooperating witness says just because he took an oath. Durk's attorneys are going to get their opportunity to challenge him. And if they can expose serious contradictions or reasons Jam might have to give prosecutors the story they want, that could completely change how the jury looks at this testimony. But if Jam's story holds up under cross-examination and prosecutors are able to connect what he is saying to the phone records, travel records, surveillance footage, and messages being shown to this jury, then this could become a major problem for Lil Durk. And there is another interesting part of what jurors have already seen. Before Jam even took the witness stand, prosecutors showed the jury messages involving Durk and other defendants discussing somebody who appeared likely to talk. According to courtroom reporting, one message attributed to Durk said the person was going to tell soon. Another message shown to the jury said that as long as they didn't break, the person could tell authorities whatever. Now we have to be careful with that. The available reporting does not establish that those messages were definitely referring to OTF Jam. The jury is going to have to decide what those messages mean and who they were talking about. But the timing is impossible to ignore. Jurors are shown conversations about somebody potentially talking. Then OTF Jam walks into court and actually becomes a government witness. And that is why this is much bigger than simply saying prosecutors found somebody willing to cooperate. Look at who this witness is. This is somebody who says Lil Durk stayed in contact with him while he was doing more than a decade in prison. Somebody who says Durk put money on his books. Somebody who says Durk helped him with an attorney. Somebody who was moving around people inside Durk's circle. And now that same person is publicly describing alleged conversations, phone calls, and events that prosecutors say connect Lil Durk to the plot targeting Quando Rondo. That is a major reversal, but it is still testimony. Lil Durk remains presumed innocent. The government still has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And now Jam's story is about to face one of the biggest tests any cooperating witness can face. Lil Durk's attorneys get their turn, because Jam has now put his own credibility directly in front of this jury. Every statement he previously gave investigators can potentially matter. Every inconsistency can potentially matter. Every reason he has for cooperating can potentially matter. And now the question isn't whether somebody from inside Durk's circle is willing to testify against him. We just watched that happen. The real question now is whether the jury believes him. And in part 2, we're going straight into what happens next inside that courtroom, what else comes out during the trial, and whether Lil Durk's defense can turn OTF Jam's testimony against the government.